The hilltop mansion stood alone, perched on a craggy precipice, its silhouette stark against the twilight sky. A veil of fog clung to the ground, swirling around the time-worn stones like a memory long forgotten. The mansion's once pristine facade was now marred by the passage of years, its windows darkened and hollow, resembling vacant eyes staring into the abyss of the surrounding forest. Ivy twisted up the walls, claiming its territory, while the wind whispered through the cracked shutters, carrying with it a symphony of distant echoes, long-lost laughter, hushed conversations, and the occasional wailing of the trees. Stepping closer, one could almost hear the heartbeat of the mansion, a slow, rhythmic pulsing that resonated with an unspoken history. The air felt thick with secrets, as if the very stones absorbed the tales of joy and despair that had unfolded within its walls. Shadows danced along the pathways, flickering with the dim light of a dying sun, painting a picture of beauty and decay. The gravel crunched underfoot, a reminder that this place, once vibrant with life, now lay in somber stillness. The hilltop mansion was not merely a relic of the past, it was a monument to dreams turned sour, a theater of ambition and tragedy. Built in the late 19th century by the affluent Hawthorne family, it was a testament to their wealth and societal standing. The grandiose architecture featured towering spires and intricate woodwork, a masterpiece of Victorian design. But the magnificence of the structure belied the darkness that lurked within its walls, a darkness that would ultimately consume the very family who called it home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers across the overgrown lawn, a shiver ran through the air. The silence was palpable, interrupted only by the rustling leaves that seemed to be murmuring tales of their own. What had happened here? What secrets lay buried beneath the layers of dust and neglect? A distant clap of thunder rolled through the sky, as if nature itself was cautioning any who dared approach the mansion's threshold. For decades, the hilltop mansion served as a stage for the Hawthorne family, a place where opulent gatherings were held, and whispered scandals flitted from ear to ear like the flickering candlelight illuminating the grand ballroom. But the laughter faded, the music ceased, and what remained were the remnants of a once great legacy. Each room told a story, each creaky floorboard reverberating with the weight of memories. Yet there was a lingering sense of abandonment, a tangible aura of sorrow that wrapped itself around the mansion like a shroud. In the quiet corners of the mansion, one could sense the tension that had simmered beneath the surface. It wasn't just the echoes of a family that once thrived, but a palpable energy, like static electricity, crackling in the air. What had transformed this haven into a place of shadows? What had driven its inhabitants to vanish, leaving behind only whispers and unanswered questions? As the first drops of rain began to fall, tapping against the roof with a gentle rhythm, a sudden chill swept through the hallways. The wind howled, carrying with it the unmistakable scent of damp earth, and something else, something more sinister. It was a scent of despair, of dreams unfulfilled and hopes shattered. The darkness thickened, wrapping around the mansion, as if waiting for someone or something to return. And just like that, the allure of the hilltop mansion took on a new dimension. The thick fog curled at the edges of the property, concealing what lay within. Was it merely a house filled with memories, or was it a vessel for the unresolved? What awaited within those crumbling walls? Was there a reason the mansion had remained untouched, a secret that begged to be uncovered? As the rain picked up, the atmosphere grew heavier, the shadows deeper. The mansion loomed larger, a brooding presence against the stormy skies. One could almost feel it breathing, its walls alive with anticipation, whispering to those brave enough to listen. Who were the souls that once inhabited this space? What stories did they carry, and what ties bound them to this forsaken place? Curiosity pulsed like a heartbeat, urging explorers to push beyond the threshold of the desolate mansion. The mysteries of the hilltop mansion beckoned, drawing the intrigued deeper into its enigmatic embrace. But as the final rays of sunlight flickered out, leaving nothing but the enveloping dark, one question hung in the air. Would the past reveal its secrets, or would it remain forever shrouded in the obscurity of time? In the stillness that followed, the rain beat down harder, the wind shrieked, and the hilltop mansion stood resolute, a guardian of its own haunting narrative. It was more than a home. It was a living testament to the fragility of happiness, the weight of ambition, and the inescapable grasp of fate. As night settled in, the air grew electric, charged with the promise of revelations yet to unfold. The stage was set for a journey into the heart of the mansion, a descent into its shadowy past filled with secrets, tragedy, and the echoes of those who once roamed its halls. The hilltop mansion awaited, patient and silent, as if daring anyone to uncover its truths. Would the brave and curious seek to unravel its mysteries, or would they too become mere whispers in the wind? The haunting allure of the mansion lingered, promising that the tale was just beginning, with specters of the past lurking in the corners, waiting for their stories to be told once more. The hilltop mansion, a stunning embodiment of Victorian architecture, was constructed in 1884, a proud declaration of the Hawthorne family's wealth and influence. The family was led by the patriarch, Jonathan Hawthorne, a man whose ambition rivaled the towering spires of his home. Jonathan had made his fortune in the textile industry, establishing a name that echoed through the bustling streets of the nearby town, where workers toiled in his factories. He envisioned a residence that would not only serve as a sanctuary for his family, but also as a symbol of their status, a place where they could host lavish gatherings, attended by dignitaries and socialites. The mansion was breathtaking in its scale and design. Crafted from locally sourced stone, its walls were adorned with intricate carvings that depicted scenes from nature, each telling a story of its own. The windows, tall and arching, were framed with stained glass that caught the light in a kaleidoscope of colors, creating a dance of light and shadow within the grand hall. The interior was equally impressive, featuring high ceilings, ornate chandeliers, and polished woodwork that glimmered in the faint light. But it was the library that truly captured Jonathan's heart, a cavernous room lined with shelves of leather-bound books where the scent of old paper mingled with the rich aroma of polished mahogany. As the years passed, the Hawthorne family flourished within the mansion's walls. Jonathan's wife, Elizabeth, was the social glue of the family, known for her grace and charm. She hosted extravagant balls that filled the halls with music and laughter, a stark contrast to the haunting silence that now envelops the mansion. Their children, a trio of spirited young adults, danced through their formative years within these opulent rooms, each carving out their own space in the family narrative. But beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic life, tensions simmered. The weight of expectations pressed upon each family member, and whispers of rivalry and ambition began to take root. The eldest son, Charles, was groomed to take over the family business, but longed for a life of adventure beyond the confines of the mansion. He often found himself at odds with his father, who could not understand his desire to explore the world. The middle child, Clara, a talented painter, felt stifled by the expectations placed upon her. She yearned for freedom, dreaming of a life filled with creativity rather than the predictability of high society. Meanwhile, the youngest, Edward, was often overshadowed by his siblings, striving to carve out his own identity amidst the looming shadows of family legacy. As the years rolled forward, the mansion stood as a witness to the joys and sorrows of the Hawthorne family. It bore the echoes of their laughter, the whispers of their secrets, and the weight of their unspoken fears. Yet, with prosperity came a growing sense of unease. The late 19th century was a time of great change. The world was shifting beneath their feet, and the Hawthorne family was not immune to the forces that swept through society. Economic downturns and shifting social norms began to encroach upon their lives, casting a pall over the once vibrant gatherings. The year 1905 marked a turning point for the family. The textile industry faced unprecedented challenges, and Jonathan's empire began to crumble. As profits dwindled, tensions escalated within the household. The once harmonious laughter faded into whispers of desperation. Charles, emboldened by a sense of impending doom, announced his intention to leave the family business and seek his fortune elsewhere. This declaration sent shockwaves through the mansion, igniting a fierce confrontation with his father. "Do you think you can simply walk away?" Jonathan's voice echoed through the grand hall, filled with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "This is our legacy. You will not throw it away for the sake of whimsy." The air was thick with unspoken words, and the walls seemed to lean in, eager to absorb the intensity of the moment. Clara watched from the shadows, her heart heavy as she felt the fissures growing wider between her family members. The arguments escalated, morphing into a tempest that rattled the very foundations of the mansion. The whispers of discontent swirled around them, mingling with the growing sense of foreboding. In the midst of this turmoil, Elizabeth attempted to hold the family together, her gentle demeanor a fragile shield against the mounting pressure. She organized gatherings, trying to rekindle the warmth of their earlier days, but the smiles felt forced, the laughter hollow. The mansion, once a beacon of prosperity, began to take on a life of its own, reflecting the growing chasm within the family. Then came the summer of 1907, marked by a tragic event that would seal the fate of the Hawthorne family. Clara, yearning for escape, had decided to host an art exhibition in the mansion, hoping to attract local artists and invite fresh energy into their home. On the night of the event, the halls were filled with vibrant colors and the sound of music, a stark contrast to the darkness that lay beneath. As the evening wore on, the facade of happiness began to crack, revealing the underlying tensions that hung in the air. It was during this exhibition that tragedy struck. In a moment of chaos, a candle tipped over, igniting the drapes in the grand hall. Panic ensued as flames engulfed the room, consuming the very heart of the mansion. The family members rushed to escape, but amidst the turmoil, Clara was separated from the others. In her desperate attempt to save her paintings, she was caught in the blaze. The fire raged, devouring everything in its path, and as the flames reached toward the sky, the mansion became an inferno that illuminated the night. The aftermath was devastating. The mansion stood charred and silent, a hollow shell of its former self. The loss of Clara shattered the family, leaving behind a haunting emptiness that echoed through the remnants of their opulent home. The once vibrant halls were now filled with shadows and grief, marking the point of no return in the Hawthorne family saga. As they sifted through the ashes of their lives, whispers of scandal began to emerge. The tragedy brought forth rumors of misfortune, suggesting that the mansion was cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who had suffered within its walls. The family's legacy, once a proud tale of ambition and grandeur, now became shrouded in darkness, leaving behind a story that begged to be unearthed. In those quiet moments, as the wind rustled through the charred remains, one could almost hear Clara's laughter blending with the whispers of the past, a bittersweet reminder of all that had been lost. And so, the hilltop mansion, while still standing, became a monument not to the glory of the Hawthorne family, but to their tragic unraveling, a tale of ambition, dreams, and the haunting legacy of a family forever changed. As the sun set behind the hills, casting long shadows over the ruins, one could not help but wonder, what other secrets lay hidden within the walls of this once grand home? What stories awaited discovery, lingering in the silence, begging to be told? If you're intrigued by the mansion's dark past and the mysteries that linger, subscribe to our channel and let us know where you're listening from. Your support helps us bring these stories to life. Inside the grand confines of Hilltop Mansion, the echoes of the past reverberated through the ornate corridors. Each room told a story steeped in history, a tapestry woven with the lives of those who once called this place home. It was here that the Hawthorne family had established their roots, their wealth distilled into every intricate detail of their surroundings. The elegance of the mansion was apparent in the high ceilings, adorned with elaborate plasterwork, and the grand staircase, which spiraled upward like a beacon of their affluence. Everywhere one looked, there were hints of lavishness, crystal chandeliers, intricate wallpapers, and ornate furniture that whispered of opulence. Yet beneath this veneer of prosperity lay the undercurrents of tension and secrets. The Hawthorne family, esteemed in society, was not immune to the shadows that loomed over them. The patriarch, Charles Hawthorne, was known for his relentless pursuit of wealth and status, often at the expense of those around him. The pressure to maintain their societal standing weighed heavily on his shoulders, creating a rift within the family. His wife, Elizabeth, elegant and poised, often found solace in the garden, nurturing the beautiful flowers that contrasted sharply with the turmoil inside. It was a sanctuary for her, a place to escape the whispers of discontent that filled the mansion's halls. Their children, too, were shaped by the environment. The eldest son, William, bore the brunt of his father's lofty ambitions. Strikingly handsome and charismatic, he was expected to inherit his father's legacy, but the burden of expectations suffocated him. The pressure to excel was a constant hum in his life, a relentless reminder that failure was not an option. He often wandered the mansion's vast library, lost in the pages of adventure novels, seeking a world far removed from the constraints of his own. Lucy, the youngest daughter, was a spirited girl with a penchant for dreaming. She often roamed the estate, her laughter echoing through the halls like sunlight peeking through clouds. Yet even her vibrant spirit could not escape the pall of her family's struggles. She often overheard conversations laden with frustration and despair, her innocent heart wondering why the laughter that once filled their home had faded into whispers. Tensions bubbled beneath the surface as the family members struggled to connect amidst the rising pressures of their lives. Dinners, once lively affairs filled with conversation and laughter, grew into silent gatherings, where the clinking of silverware was the only sound that broke the suffocating stillness. Each member of the Hawthorne family drifted into their own world, their dreams overshadowed by the weight of expectation. As time marched on, tragedy struck the Hawthornes in a way they could never have anticipated. It began with whispers in the town, rumors of financial troubles that wormed their way into the family's life. Charles, in his desperation, began to make reckless decisions in an attempt to regain control, investing in ventures that did not bear fruit. The once stalwart family found themselves teetering on the edge of ruin, their opulent lifestyle threatened by the very ambitions that had built it. The family's downfall came crashing down one fateful night, when William, seeking to prove his worth, made a decision that would haunt them all. He ventured out to a party thrown by an influential figure, hoping to secure a business deal that would save the family from financial ruin. But that night, he returned, not as the triumphant son they had hoped for, but as a man changed forever. He had been involved in a confrontation that ended in violence, an altercation that left him shaken to his core. The news of the incident spread like wildfire through the town, and the scandal surrounding the Hawthornes deepened. Each room bore witness to the growing darkness, shadows stretching across the floors like the grasping hands of despair. Soon, the whispers of the town turned into outright avoidance. The Hawthorns, once the epitome of social standing, now walked the streets with their heads down, shunned by those who had once revered them. The weight of their family's tragedy became an albatross, dragging them deeper into isolation. What once was a vibrant mansion now felt like a colossal monument to their misfortune, and the air grew thick with the scent of despair. As the world outside continued to turn, time moved differently within the Hilltop Mansion. It became a place where the past was never truly buried, and the ghosts of the Hawthorns lingered, haunting every corner. The mansion stood as a testament not just to their wealth, but to their unraveling, a reminder of what it meant to lose everything to pride, ambition, and tragedy. The silence that enveloped the halls was not merely absence. It was filled with unspoken words, questions that would forever remain unanswered. The family had been shattered, and now all that remained were the echoes of their dreams, lost forever in the shadows of Hilltop Mansion. The Hilltop Mansion, once a vibrant hub of laughter and life, lay shrouded in a thick veil of stillness. It was here, in this grand edifice, that the Hawthorn family's tragic fall began to unravel. The opulent events that had graced its halls were now mere echoes, replaced by the lingering sense of decay and loss. It was a place where joy had once danced with abandon, but now stood as a monument to misfortune and despair. In the summer of 1902, the mansion's air was heavy with anticipation. The Hawthorns were preparing for the annual summer gala, an event that had become the talk of the town, where the elite gathered to celebrate their wealth and position. As the evening approached, the grand chandeliers glimmered in the soft glow of candlelight, casting intricate shadows that fluttered across the walls, as if the very spirits of the past were watching, waiting for something to unfold. But beneath the surface of this celebratory atmosphere, the family was on the brink of a catastrophe that would tear their lives apart. Jonathan Hawthorne, the proud patriarch, had been increasingly distracted by whispers in the business community. The textile industry, once a flourishing empire under his command, was beginning to face turmoil. A rival company had emerged, threatening his market share and the very foundation of the wealth he had built. As Jonathan's financial woes deepened, so did the strain on his family. His ambition, once an admirable trait, now morphed into an obsession that blinded him to the needs of those he loved. Elizabeth, his devoted wife, felt the weight of the tension building within their home. The laughter that used to fill the mansion was slowly replaced with anxious conversations and hushed tones. She could see the toll that the pressures of business had taken on Jonathan, the way his brow furrowed in deep thought, his smile often replaced by a grimace. Yet she continued to host gatherings, hoping to distract both her husband and their guests from the encroaching darkness that loomed over them. The children of the Hawthorne family, too, felt the shifting dynamics. William, the eldest son, had always been Jonathan's pride and joy, expected to inherit his father's empire. But with the looming shadow of failure, William found himself torn between the legacy he was meant to uphold and the desire to forge his own path. His sisters, Clara and Violet, shared in the burden of expectation. They enjoyed the social life their parents had built, but sensed that beneath the glamour lay a fragile facade. The mansion, once a bastion of security, began to feel like a gilded cage. As the gala commenced, guests, adorned in elegant silks and jewels, filled the halls, their laughter echoing against the cavernous walls. Yet, even amidst the splendor, an undercurrent of unease rippled through the air. Rumors of Jonathan's financial struggles had begun to seep into the social circles, causing whispers to travel among the attendees. The facade of wealth and happiness was cracking, and the Hawthorne family was acutely aware. That evening, As the music played and the guests twirled across the marble floor, a sudden commotion broke the rhythm of the night. A loud crash resonated from the upstairs study, silencing the crowd. Faces turned, eyes wide with shock, as Jonathan rushed up the grand staircase. The air felt thick with tension as Elizabeth followed close behind, her heart racing. When they reached the study door, they found it ajar, a stark reminder of the chaos that had erupted within. Inside, William stood frozen, his face pale as he surveyed the room. The once meticulously organized space was now in disarray, papers scattered like fallen leaves, a shattered vase lying on the floor. In his hands, he clutched an ominous letter from the rival company, a formal notice that threatened to dismantle his father's empire. The realization hit like a cold wave washing over them. The very foundation of their lives was crumbling. Jonathan's frustration erupted. "William, how could you have let this happen?" he roared, the echo of his voice reverberating through the halls. The tension that had simmered beneath the surface erupted into a furious confrontation. William, caught off guard by his father's explosive anger, struggled to find his voice. I tried to warn you, Father. We need to adapt, to change our approach, but you won't listen." The clash of ambition and expectation manifested in that small, chaotic room, threatening to tear the family apart. Elizabeth stood helplessly between the two, feeling the fractures deepen. The gala had devolved into chaos, the laughter and music drowned out by the dissonance of a family on the brink of collapse. As the confrontation escalated, Clara and Violet, who had been enjoying the festivities, were drawn into the whirlwind of anger. The rift between the Hawthorne family members felt palpable, an unseen force that could bring everything crashing down. But it was the next day that truly marked the beginning of their downfall. Jonathan received a visit from a local banker, a man whose expression bore the weight of bad news. As he entered the mansion, his demeanor was grim, the flickering candlelight casting long shadows on the walls. Despite the grandeur surrounding them, the atmosphere was dense with impending doom. The banker informed Jonathan that if he did not settle his debt soon, the mansion, their home, would be lost. With every word, the walls of Hilltop Mansion seemed to close in on Jonathan. He felt the walls, once a symbol of his triumph, beginning to close around him like a vice. That night, as the family gathered for dinner, the air was thick with unspoken words. Each member sensed the shift, a realization that everything they held dear was slipping away. The tension was a living thing, palpable in the air, as plates remained untouched and eyes avoided contact. Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew unbearable. Elizabeth, desperate to maintain some semblance of normalcy, tried to rally the family. But beneath the surface, the cracks widened. William withdrew, grappling with the guilt of his father's expectations weighing heavily upon him. Clara and Violet became silent witnesses to the tragedy unfolding, each day feeling more distant from the joy they once knew. Then, on a stormy night, as lightning illuminated the mansion's facade, a tragic accident occurred that would seal the Hawthorne family's fate. As the storm raged outside, Jonathan, in a moment of despair, took to the study, seeking solace in the whiskey that lined his desk. Distracted by the tempestuous winds and howling rain, he lost sight of time. In a moment of vulnerability, he made a decision that would change everything, a decision that would haunt the Hawthorne family for generations. The storm howled like a banshee outside, but the real tempest was brewing within the walls of Hilltop Mansion. And as the thunder crashed, it was not just the storm that echoed through those halls, but the haunting realization that the Hawthorne family was about to face their reckoning. The laughter once shared would soon turn to whispers of tragedy, as the mansion prepared to embrace the darkness that lay ahead. The mansion's grand facade loomed over the surrounding hills, its once vibrant colors now faded and peeling, as if the building itself was mourning the glory days it once basked in. The hilltop mansion had long ceased to be a lively abode. Instead, it had devolved into a hollow shell, echoing the whispers of its past. The air was thick with the scent of damp wood and forgotten memories, and the only sounds that filled its empty halls were the soft sighs of the wind slipping through cracked windows. Shadows danced across the walls, elongating and bending like the memories of the Hawthorne family who once inhabited this place. It was said that anyone who dared to enter felt an unsettling chill, as if unseen eyes were watching, waiting. Many locals had shared stories of ghostly apparitions, flickering lights, and voices that echoed in the darkness, recounting the days of joy and despair that mingled together in this grand house. The mansion had become an enigma, a place where time stood still, holding on to the secrets of a family that had vanished without a trace. The aura of mystery enveloped Hilltop Mansion, drawing in thrill-seekers and paranormal enthusiasts alike, each curious to uncover the truths that lingered. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an ethereal glow over the landscape, the mansion appeared to come alive in an eerie fashion. The fading light painted the windows in shades of gold, but inside, darkness reigned. Each room was laden with remnants of the past, dust-covered furniture, forgotten toys, and portraits of solemn faces that seemed to gaze out across time. It was here, in this haunting silence, that the true essence of the mansion began to seep through, revealing the layers of its tragic history. Investigators and ghost hunters often ventured into the mansion, armed with electronic devices designed to capture the whispers of the past. Reports frequently surfaced of sudden drops in temperature, unexplainable electrical disturbances, and the sensation of being followed, a collective unease that hung heavily in the air. Many claim to have encountered the spectral forms of the Hawthorne family themselves, forever bound to the site of their former glory. The tales spoke of Charles Hawthorne, the patriarch, wandering the halls, consumed by the ambition that once drove him. Elizabeth, his wife, was said to be seen tending to her beloved garden, forever seeking solace among the blooms. And William, their troubled son, was often sighted in the library, still lost in the world of his books, desperately trying to escape the weight of expectation that had suffocated him. Lucy, the youngest daughter, was perhaps the most prominent apparition. Her laughter, once a melody that filled the mansion, was now a haunting echo. Witnesses claimed to have heard her giggles trailing down the corridors, a bittersweet reminder of the innocence that had been lost within those walls. The gardens, once vibrant with color and life, had become overgrown and wild, as if nature itself was reclaiming the space left behind by the family. Yet, it was not just tales of the past that surrounded Hilltop Mansion. There were also whispers of a curse that had befallen its inhabitants. The tragedies that struck the Hawthorne family seemed to intertwine with the mansion itself, suggesting an unbreakable bond between the two. As the family rose in affluence, so too did the echo of misfortune. The tragedy that had marred their lives, the scandal that unraveled their standing in society, left a stain that could not be washed away. Rumors circulated through the townsfolk about the mysterious disappearance of the family. How could a lineage so prominent simply vanish? Some spoke of a hidden treasure, buried deep within the walls of the mansion, hinting that greed might have played a role in their undoing. Others believed that the spirits of the family were bound to the property, unwilling or unable to leave due to the unfinished business of their lives. The more one delved into the lore surrounding Hilltop Mansion, the more the lines between reality and the supernatural blurred. As the investigations continued, the mansion began to deteriorate physically, mirroring the crumbling legacy of the Hawthornes. Roof tiles slipped into disrepair, and the once proud gardens choked under the weight of weeds. Each passing year seemed to draw the mansion deeper into obscurity, yet the pull of its history remained strong. It became a place where the living sought to uncover the truths behind the lives of the deceased, all while the mansion itself stood sentinel, guarding its secrets jealously. For those brave enough to spend the night within its walls, the experience was akin to stepping into a time capsule. As night fell, the atmosphere thickened, each creak of the floorboards reverberating like a heartbeat in the silence. Shadows elongated, and corners of rooms became indistinct as the darkness crept in. The air bristled with anticipation, and visitors reported feeling a strange sense of connection to the family, as though the walls themselves were whispering the stories of their lives. The legend of Hilltop Mansion grew, fueled by the tales shared around flickering campfires and the hushed conversations of those who dared to approach its gates. Each retelling added layers to the narrative, embellishing the story with new details, yet the essence remained unchanged. A family intertwined with their home, their spirits lingering, and an unfinished story waiting to be unveiled. Yet as the tales of the mansion spread, so did the mystery of its ultimate fate. Would the truth of the Hawthorne family be brought to light, or would it remain forever obscured, locked within the shadows of Hilltop Mansion? The question hung in the air, leaving a lingering sense of anticipation, as if the very mansion itself was biding its time, allowing the world to wonder what lay within its forsaken walls. The answer, it seemed, was buried in the dust and echoes of a bygone era, waiting for someone brave enough to unlock the door to the past and confront the secrets that thrived within. As curiosity settled in, so too did a sense of trepidation, for the past, once disturbed, might not rest easy, and the shadows that dwelled in the corners of Hilltop Mansion promised to unveil their own dark truths. The Hilltop Mansion stood as an exquisite relic of the past, yet its beauty had been marred by a relentless decay that whispered of its former glory. Each creak of the floorboards echoed like a faint memory, reverberating through the cavernous halls where laughter once rang out like a symphony. The air was thick with dust, swirling in motes that danced lazily in the shafts of light filtering through the tattered curtains. Nature had begun to reclaim its territory, creeping vines snaking up the stone walls, while the once pristine gardens lay overgrown and wild, a testament to the years of neglect that had followed the Hawthorne family's tragic downfall. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the estate, a chill settled over the mansion. It was as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for the stories of the past to be told anew. The air crackled with a sense of anticipation, as if the ghosts of the Hawthorne family lingered, eager to share their secrets with any who dared listen. The mansion, now abandoned, had not always been devoid of life, but it had become a haunted monument, a living testament to the ambitions and failures of those who once inhabited its hallowed halls. It was said that the echoes of their laughter could still be heard on windswept nights, mingling with the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. Yet, as the years passed, the vibrancy seeped out of the structure, replaced by a pervasive feeling of sorrow that clung to the air like a heavy fog. The legacy of the Hawthorne family was not merely one of wealth. It was entwined with tragedy, scandal, and a palpable sense of foreboding. As the last remnants of their story lay buried beneath layers of dust and time, a question lingered. What had truly happened to the family that once filled the mansion with life? The answers were hidden in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to be unveiled. In the summer of 1902, the opulence of the Hilltop Mansion had masked a brewing storm. Jonathan Hawthorne, the esteemed patriarch, had been consumed by the pressures of maintaining his wealth. His business struggles took a toll on his relationships, particularly with Elizabeth, whose spirit began to dim under the weight of unspoken fears. The vibrant gatherings that once illuminated the mansion were now tinged with unease, and the guests could sense the discontent lurking just beneath the surface. As the summer gala approached, a palpable tension hung in the air. It was an event that had once brought joy and excitement, where the elite mingled and reveled in the grandeur of the Hawthornes' hospitality. Yet this year, the anticipation was overshadowed by an unshakable dread. Elizabeth, ever the dutiful host, tried to keep the spirits high, laughing and engaging with guests, but her heart was heavy with worry. One fateful evening, under the shimmering chandeliers, Elizabeth spotted Jonathan across the ballroom, his expression distant and pained. He was locked in conversation with a group of men whose faces bore the marks of scheming ambition. She felt a ripple of anxiety wash over her as she realized that Jonathan's focus had shifted entirely away from their family and toward the darker currents of business. With every passing moment, the weight of unsaid words pressed down on Elizabeth's heart. She could sense that the facade of their perfect life was beginning to crack, revealing the fractures underneath. The laughter that once filled the mansion seemed like a distant memory, a cruel reminder of the joy that had once been theirs. As the gala unfolded, whispers of scandal began to permeate the crowd. The rumors of Jonathan's financial troubles swirled like smoke, wrapping around the guests' minds, igniting their curiosity and concern. Elizabeth, watching from the sidelines, felt her heart race as she overheard snippets of conversations that hinted at betrayal and deception. The very fabric of their society began to unravel, and she could feel the eyes of the guests on her, filled with pity and curiosity. In the days following the gala, the situation worsened. Jonathan retreated further into himself, consumed by his spiraling business and the growing mountain of debt. The mansion, once filled with light, now felt cold and unwelcoming. Elizabeth found herself wandering the desolate halls, her footsteps echoing off the walls, each sound a reminder of the life they once shared. The tension reached a boiling point one stormy night, the wind howling outside as lightning illuminated the mansion in brief flashes of brilliance. Jonathan, agitated and restless, confronted Elizabeth in the parlor, his voice low and strained. Accusations flew like arrows, piercing through the silence that had become their norm. Elizabeth's heart raced as she tried to reach him, to understand the man she had once loved so fiercely. But he was a stranger now, lost to his obsessions. The argument escalated, the walls trembling with their emotions as the storm raged outside, mirroring the turmoil within. In the heat of the moment, Jonathan revealed the depths of his desperation. He had made decisions that jeopardized not only their fortune, but their very future. The weight of his failures hung heavy in the air, suffocating any glimmer of hope that remained. As the night wore on, Jonathan's frustration turned into despair, a tempest of emotions that had been building for far too long. Elizabeth, heartbroken and terrified, watched as the man she loved crumbled before her eyes. With each passing moment, the mansion became more than just a home. It transformed into a prison, its walls closing in around them, suffocating any chance of redemption. As dawn broke, casting pale light into the dark corners of the mansion, the echoes of that fateful night lingered, a haunting reminder of a family torn apart. The once vibrant halls of Hilltop Mansion were now filled with a somber silence, a harbinger of the tragedy that was to come. The whispers of the past intertwined with the present, and the mansion stood witness to the impending doom that awaited the Hawthorne legacy. What would become of them? The darkness loomed, and the answers lay just beyond the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. As night enveloped the Hilltop Mansion, the shadows deepened, wrapping the once stately structure in a shroud of unsettling calm. The air felt heavier, thick with secrets begging to be unveiled. Visitors often commented on the peculiar energies that seemed to pulse from the walls like a heartbeat long since stilled. It was a place where the past refused to fade away, each creak of the floorboards reverberating with tales of joy and sorrow, of laughter turned to cries. Through the years, the mansion had witnessed countless stories, both mundane and extraordinary. Those who came seeking answers often left with more questions than they arrived with, their imaginations ignited by the stories that swirled in the dust motes. The presence of the Hawthorne family lingered like a fog, a testament to the lives once lived within these walls. But it was the tales of ghostly encounters that had truly cemented the mansion's reputation as a hotspot for the supernatural. Local historians had chronicled accounts from brave souls who dared to explore the dilapidated corridors. Some spoke of a woman in white, gliding gracefully through the grand hall, her facial expression a haunting mix of joy and despair. Others reported chilling voices echoing in the night, as if the very air was saturated with the whispers of long-lost conversations. These experiences blurred the line between reality and the otherworldly, drawing in paranormal investigators eager to document the mansion's enigmas. As the story of the Hilltop Mansion spread, it became the subject of fascination for both amateur ghost hunters and seasoned professionals. Armed with flashlights and cameras, they embarked on expeditions, hoping to catch a glimpse of what might still roam the halls. They recounted tales of cold spots that would suddenly envelop them as they entered specific rooms, the temperature dropping as if the very essence of the mansion was rejecting their presence. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP, often captured faint whispers that seemed to beckon from beyond the veil, asking the living to listen to their untold stories. One such investigation took place on an ominous October night, when the moon hung high and full, casting an eerie glow over the estate. A group of 5 researchers set up their equipment in the dimly lit parlor, a room that had once hosted lavish gatherings. The air crackled with anticipation as they settled in, each member taking a moment to absorb the charged atmosphere. With cameras rolling and recorders poised, they began to call out to the spirits rumored to inhabit the mansion. "Is anyone here with us?" one of them asked, her voice steady, though her heart raced. The silence that followed seemed to pulse, heavy and expectant. Moments passed, dragging on like an eternity, when suddenly a loud bang resounded from the far end of the hallway. The group exchanged anxious glances, their collective breath hitching in their throats. "Did you hear that?" another whispered, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement. The crackling tension drew them toward the source, curiosity overtaking trepidation. As they stepped cautiously down the hallway, the floorboards groaned beneath their weight, as if the house itself was voicing its discontent. When they reached the door of a long-abandoned study, the smell of aged leather and dust wafted through the air. The door, slightly ajar, creaked open at their touch, revealing an interior shrouded in darkness. Flashlights flickered across the room, illuminating shelves lined with books, their spines cracked and faded. "Look at this," one investigator called, pointing to a portrait hanging crookedly on the wall. It depicted a stern-looking man in a top hat, surely a member of the Hawthorne family. The eyes of the painting seemed to follow them, a chilling reminder of the life that used to fill this house. Suddenly the atmosphere shifted. A sharp gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing their flashlights momentarily. The group gasped, instinctively huddling closer, their heartbeats echoing like thunder in their ears. When the lights returned, a movement caught their attention in the far corner. A shadow flitted past, just out of sight, leaving them questioning what lay beyond the threshold of their understanding. "What was that?" one investigator whispered, his voice trembling slightly. "Maybe it was just a draft," another suggested, though her eyes betrayed her doubt. But deep down, they all knew they were not alone. The mansion had awakened, each creak and rumble whispering secrets that demanded to be heard. They resumed their investigation, determined to uncover the mysteries held within these walls. As the night wore on, the group recorded more sounds. Faint laughter, children's voices fleeting like echoes of the past. Their devices captured strange anomalies, strange lights flickering in the corners of rooms where no electricity had run for decades. Every sound felt charged with history, as if each room was a vessel containing the essence of the Hawthorne family's joys and tragedies. As dawn approached, the atmosphere shifted once again. A sense of calm descended, almost protective. It was as if the spirits, aware of their presence, were granting them a final moment of peace. The group exchanged weary smiles, a shared understanding passing between them. They had come seeking answers, but what they found was a deeper connection to the lives that once filled the mansion. A reminder that the past is never truly gone. It merely waits for someone to remember. When they finally departed, the sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the hilltop mansion. It stood silent, its secrets safely tucked away, waiting to whisper to the next group of curious souls. The story of the Hawthorne family and their enigmatic estate continued, a haunting legacy etched into the very fabric of the mansion, echoing through time and drawing others into its embrace. As they left the grounds, the investigators couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of the mysteries contained within the walls. The hilltop mansion remained a puzzle, a labyrinth of history intertwined with the supernatural, waiting for someone else to unlock its secrets. And as the stories continued to circulate, the mansion would always be a magnet for those seeking the truth hidden within its shadows, forever drawing them back to its haunting embrace. In the wake of its storied past, the hilltop mansion now stood as a silent witness to the passage of time. Nature's hand had painted the walls with creeping ivy, and the shattered glass of the windows reflected a world that had moved on. Yet, if one listened closely enough, they could hear the whispers of the past carried on the wind, an echo of the lives once lived within those decaying walls. The mansion had become a canvas for time's relentless creativity. The once grand foyer, with its towering ceilings and ornate chandeliers, now lay shrouded in shadows. The opulence faded into a ghostly presence. Dust motes danced in the fading light, swirling around like memories lost in the passage of years. Each room held remnants of a life once vibrant. The tattered remnants of an elegant gown hung limply in a darkened corner, while the grand piano, with its keys yellowed and cracked, sat forgotten in its parlor, waiting for a touch that would never again bring forth a melody. The Hawthorne family had left their mark on the mansion, but it had not been an easy legacy to uphold. The echoes of their laughter and the sounds of their gatherings had long since faded, replaced by the creaks and groans of a structure succumbing to neglect. The local townsfolk spoke in hushed tones of the family's tragic end, their stories wrapped in a shroud of mystery and sorrow. They recalled the wealth that had once flowed through the halls, the lavish parties that sparked envy in the hearts of many, and the sudden dark cloud that had descended upon the family, leading to their inexplicable downfall. As the years slipped away, the mansion transformed from a symbol of prestige to one of ruin. The local authorities had tried to intervene, seeking to preserve its historical value, but the pressing nature of the present proved too formidable. Each attempt to restore the property was met with unforeseen complications. Funding fell through, storms ravaged the structure, and any flicker of hope was snuffed out like a candle in a storm. The Hawthorne legacy was being swallowed by time, each passing season erasing more of its former glory. Yet, within the decay, some whispered about the very essence of the mansion itself, an energy that lingered, a pulse of emotion that seemed to thrum between its walls. Paranormal enthusiasts flocked to the site, lured by tales of ghostly apparitions and unexplained phenomena. They spoke of shadowy figures seen flitting through the halls and cold spots that sent shivers down the spines of those brave enough to step inside. Some claimed to have heard piano music wafting through the air on still nights, only to find silence greeting their search. The legends gained traction, intertwining with the mansion's history, creating a rich tapestry of intrigue. Local ghost tours began to include Hilltop Mansion as a highlight, with guides recounting tales of the family's demise, their lavish lifestyle, and the eerie happenings that kept the spirit of the Hawthornes alive. It became a point of fascination and fear, drawing people closer to the mystery while simultaneously making them wary of the shadows that danced at the corners of their vision. In the summer of 2023, a team of paranormal investigators ventured into the depths of the Hilltop Mansion, armed with equipment designed to capture the inexplicable. They entered the mansion on a night thick with fog, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. The moon hung low, casting an ethereal glow that illuminated the silhouettes of the trees surrounding the estate, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. As they crossed the threshold, the very atmosphere shifted, electric with anticipation, and something else, something unnameable. Within the mansion, they encountered room after room filled with remnants of the past. Each corner seemed to hold its breath, as if the walls themselves were listening. They set up cameras and audio recorders, their hearts racing with the thrill of the unknown. As the night deepened, they began their investigation, calling out to the spirits rumored to haunt the halls. They asked questions, hoping for a response, their voices echoing off the cracked walls like whispers from another time. Hours passed, and just when doubt began to creep in, a peculiar sound broke through the stillness. A soft piano note, hauntingly familiar, floated through the air. The investigators exchanged glances, their excitement mingling with apprehension. They followed the sound, their footsteps echoing as they approached the grand parlor. The room was dark, save for the beam of light from their flashlight that revealed the faded grandeur of the piano. As they drew closer, the music seemed to swell, filling the air with an otherworldly melody. They paused, their hearts racing, ready to capture any evidence. But as quickly as it had begun, the music ceased, leaving a profound silence in its wake. The weight of the moment hung heavy, and a chill swept through the room, as if something had shifted in the very fabric of the mansion. The investigators, emboldened by the experience, continued their exploration, each room revealing more whispers of the past. They captured strange flickers of light on their cameras, and unexplained voices echoed back in response to their questions. Each discovery deepened the mystery of the Hawthorne family and their tragic fate, weaving a story that refused to fade into obscurity. As dawn approached, the investigators reluctantly left the mansion, their minds swirling with the experiences of the night. They had come seeking answers, but what they found was a deepening enigma, a connection to a family that had once lived and loved within those walls, now steeped in shadows and sorrow. Today, the Hilltop Mansion stands as a testament to the complexity of existence, the interplay of joy and pain, life and loss. It beckons those who dare to uncover its secrets, offering glimpses of a past that, though shrouded in mystery, remains indelibly etched into the very foundations of its being. The stories of the Hawthorne family live on, entwined with the fabric of the mansion, whispering their truths to those who pause to listen, inviting all into the depths of its dark past. As the season turns once more, the mansion quietly awaits, a guardian of its own history, ready to share its secrets with those brave enough to seek them. The echoes of its past linger in the air, a reminder that while some stories may fade, others are destined to endure, forever entwined with the shadows of the Hilltop Mansion.